7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
International superstar, Miss Butter B.
You are now tuned in to Butter B Rocker on Transparency Talks Podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Transparency Talks Podcast. I am your girl, Butter B Rocker. Listen, we have an amazing show for you today. I'm super excited about this young lady. But before I bring on our special guest, I just want to thank you guys so much. BBR Indie Films is happening on Wednesday, July 24th. And we have completely sold out, so much to the point where I really need to get a bigger room because like we're the overflow. Thank you, Jesus. So you can go online starting next Monday after the event and do your submissions for the upcoming one, because you know we do this every other month for BBR Indie Films. So anyway, with all that being said, she is the VP of Original Production and Development for AllBlk and WEtv AMC networks. Can you please show some love for Miss Ashley McFarlin? How you doing, Queen?
Is that like the proverbial crowd cheering? Woo!
You know, I need to put that in there.
We need some canned crowd.
We
crowd,
do.
Voice for sure. That'll get us amped up in the very beginning.
Yep. How you doing?
I'm fantastic.
You look fantastic.
Well, thank you. You look gorgeous yourself, my dear.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I have an 11-year-old son every day. He asks my daughter and I to judge our days on a scale of 1 to 5. And he doesn't understand how every day I'm always like, I'm at a 5. And he was like, every day you're at a 5, Mom? And I was like, yes. Like, why not? It's a choice. You can choose to be at a 1. I'm not choosing to be at a 1. Are you kidding me? If I'm close to a 1, I got to change something up.
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, your energy and your vibe like oozes out of you, like from your pictures to anytime you speak to you. I mean, one of the things that was so cool was that you have that synergy around you. Like everybody felt so comfortable. I mean, you're a VP of freaking AllBlk and WeTV, you know, so people kind of intimidated to come and speak to you, but you had this warm smile that just made people be like, oh my goodness, I can actually talk to her. So
shout out to my mom, Braces.
I love your mom. Love your mom. Like she is a doll.
Oh,
seriously.
Thank you. I hope she's watching. I'm sure she would really appreciate hearing that. But thank you. Those are really, really kind words. And you know, as the church folks say, to God be the glory. Because you know, my joy definitely comes from him. And I walk around, I like life. Like I like being alive. So I'm hopeful and thankful that people can benefit from that when we hang out.
Absolutely. So I want to dive right on in. Can you tell everybody the background about yourself?
Whew, child. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. There are only like 2 of us. Right. And I was raised in the television environment. You mentioned my mother. My mother was a producer here in Atlanta, and I was just around the space of sets and writers and directors and producers for most of my life as I was growing up, and I didn't realize that everybody else wasn't. So it had an impact and an influence on me that I would realize as I became an adult. I went to Howard University for undergrad, and I studied mass communications there, and it became plainly obvious to me that television and film was going to be my career of choice. And thankfully, I had a great foundation of understanding the craft of television, the craft of storytelling, the business of television, such that once I graduated from Howard, I jumped right into the industry. I started working at MTV right out of college. And even before then, I had really fantastic internships starting at CNN and then on to CBS and BET. And once I was in the workforce, there was no stopping me. I was in the space where I was most at peace and most comfortable sharing my gifts and my opinions and my thoughts and my talents in the space, and opportunities just sort of kept showing up, and I kept showing up back for them.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that's really cool. My kids grew up with me in the music industry, so that was just kind of like a norm, going to these
Yeah.
concerts and being on these stages and everything. So for you to see it firsthand and get the true understanding of how
Yeah.
everything works. And my mom used to be my manager, and she
Oh,
always
wow. You had a momager?
I used to have that momager. You met her at the event.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't know she was managing yours. That's amazing.
Yeah. She used to manage me, and the biggest thing she installed in me is you need to learn the business of
Yes.
show business and everything. So with your mom, I'm absolutely positive that she gave you all the tea and made sure you was good.
She was very intentional about making sure I understood that as creative as this space is, and I'm a creative first, and as much fun as we have in this space, when you are not in a position to take your bag home, there's a problem.
Right.
And you have to then flex your muscles as an educated, articulate individual to speak your truth and demand your worth.
Absolutely. So you just talked about how you jumped right into the industry
Mhm.
and you start working at MTV. What exactly was your first job?
My very first job out of college. So my first internship was with CNN. And I say that was a job because even though it wasn't paid, they worked us. Like, it wasn't like an internship where you're just getting coffee and making copies.
Right.
They really sort of tossed us into the spaces of actual creative input and understanding the systems and protocols of the company. So that was really dope. But my first paying gig was out of graduating from Howard. I went to be a summer associate at MTV, and that was a paid internship. It's highly competitive. It's similar, for people who know this space, it's similar to the NBC Page program, where you come to New York and you work in a very specific space that aligns with where you expressed your vision for yourself is. So I had expressed coming in that I had experience and interest in working with live events because I used to stage manage when I was in college for concerts and theater. But I also really loved studio television. So if there was a space where there was crossover for that, I would love it. And wouldn't you know it, there was. So when I came to MTV, they placed me in the special events area. And I mean, the opportunities I got right out of college were insane. I was working with the VMAs. I was working with Spring Break. I was working with Summer Beach House, the New Year's Eve Ball, all of the, back in the heyday of MTV, when they would just have these amazing music live events, like even pre-TRL. It was just a fantastic space to be in. And I learned a lot about the live event space, which is high octane, very stressful, really aggressive, but it keeps you on your toes and it forces you to stay on your game.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say has been some of the biggest challenges you faced in your early career?
Confidence. I think early on, because I had been given so many opportunities as a child to understand and to be exposed to the industry, when I, as an adult, started to work in it, I just assumed everyone knew more than me. And I was wrong a lot of times. And I never really took the time to assess what I was bringing to the table so that I could be confident enough to bring it. Now, that's not to say you come out of college trying to take over the boardroom, but if you're in a space working with a team, you're not there to be silent. You're not there to not contribute and to not be in the room. And I struggled with that when I was young. Now, some people who know me might be listening to this and be like, Ashley, you ain't never been quiet. But I've also never been this loud. And I think this amplified voice of mine has always been there. And at a younger age, I would hear it to myself, but I would be too afraid to share it. And I would encourage a lot of young people who are stepping out into the industry, before you go too far in making this 5-year plan, take some time to sit with yourself so you really know who you are. So by the time you start making those steps in the plan, you're walking in the real you, and everyone can benefit from it, including yourself.
Sound advice, definitely.
Yes.
So when did you start writing And did you write creatively before entering into television?
Let me just tell y'all, Butter is coming with the real questions. This is good. I started writing very young. I mentioned my son earlier. He reminds me a lot of myself because he's a young, enthusiastic writer and reader. I started writing when I was like 5 or 6 years old. I remember my grandmother telling me, anyone who can read and write can do anything. And that just sounded like, that's a no-brainer. Then let me go learn how to read and write so I can do anything. And I loved reading. I loved escaping into stories and characters. So then I started picking up on different ways that people were using their voices in the young adult novels I was reading, and or like the children's books I was reading. And I would just start writing my own stories about my little life. And I keep them to myself. I don't even think a lot of people or my friends knew I wrote like that. But I have a little journal. I had a little diary. I was a little girl who was always writing about the little boy she liked. But I would always write it in poetry. Like, I thought I was so deep. In like first or second grade, reading Maya Angelou and trying to make up my own little version of it.
Right.
Yeah, I started writing very young, and I love words. I love words. There's something about them that just excite me. I love the power of words. I love the nuance of words. I love that so many different words can mean the same thing by definition, but offer different things by connotation. And I like being able to play with that when you're speaking and when you're writing, to convey your thoughts and your feelings. So I started writing at an early age, and I stuck with it because I really like it.
Did your experience in television influence your writing style or theme?
I'm sure it did. I don't think I've taken the time to say specifically how it directly impacted it, but I'm an 80s baby. So I watched a lot of TV. I'm Reading Rainbow, I'm Pinwheel, I'm Sesame Street. So I'm sure a lot of if I look back at some of those old manuscripts, I'm sure a lot of them sounded like what I was hearing on television, but I don't think I was aware if it influenced me in that way. But I will say, as an adult, looking back at some of those shows that were out back then, I think it helped to give me a broader perspective of the world when I was writing, because those shows that I mentioned, Reading Rainbow, Sesame Street, they offered a level of inclusivity that I don't think I would have been involved in, because my world, my neighborhood, it was predominantly Black. Everyone there looked like me, and we all had similar backgrounds. But then you watch shows like Reading Rainbow and Sesame Street and stuff, and you see all these different shades of people from all over the place, and it helps you understand that the world's bigger than you. So then your voice that you're writing with starts to imagine then what you're thinking, how it might look and feel in other spaces, and you explore and you imagine in a different way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So looking back at your 20-year plus in television, have you seen the industry evolve, especially in terms of diversity?
A lot. I mean, gosh, it has evolved as an industry pretty dynamically with the technology. So I remember as a kid on set with my mom, I would literally hold cue cards. They were like poster board cards that people use Sharpies to write what the talent would say, to now coming to a space where you have, telecasted teleprompters. Like, you have teleprompters where a producer in a back room is casting it from their phone, and they can real time edit what needs to be said. Like, that to me is tremendous. And it's amazing to be in a position to have seen that evolution of the technology in the space. I think with regards to the people and culture of television and film, sure. When I was growing up, my mom was always the only Black person, let alone Black woman, in the room. And for her to have had a position of authority was rare. And when I came into the industry, even as a teenager, getting like side gigs or little internships, I was always the only brown girl in the room. And I'm sure that also probably impacted the confidence struggles that I had, because I just didn't feel comfortable in those spaces. I felt small. And then as I grow up and I become an adult, I moved to New York from Atlanta. I was seeing less and less of myself for a long time. But because I come from Atlanta and Atlanta influences everything, I knew I had to stay the course to remain in these spaces, despite the fact that I was in the minority. And then suddenly 2020 happens, and all the conversations I've been having for years about equity and inclusion are finally at the top of the docket. And people were understanding the value of not just like on a personnel level, of having people of different backgrounds in the workspace and in the writer's room and out in the field and in the edit, to culturally cultivate the voice of a project, but your bottom line, your numbers improve when you have a diverse group of people creating something, because they're then going to create something that's more universally relative to your audience, because they're now bringing in voice and perspective to people that wouldn't have otherwise watched your content. So I watched a very quick uptick in the pursuit of people of color, of young people, of the LGBTQ plus community, of the international community being sought after to be a part of this process to produce content that's more dynamic and that ultimately is more economically sound.
Okay. Did your entrepreneurial drive manifest in the television industry before venturing out on your own?
Oh yeah, I think I was born with an entrepreneurial spirit. Like I don't. Oh, my mom might kill me if I say this. So I'm gonna say it anyway, Mom. If as a child, so I'm one of 4 girls. So I'm number 3. I'm right in the middle. So I have the perspective of watching how my parents are parenting the 2 older sisters, and then how they're parenting the younger sister, and of course myself. But I'm watching and observing how my mother and father, as the purse strings of the family, can pretty much pull and call all the shots because they pay for everything. And I remember my older sisters getting in arguments with my parents about wanting to do things. And my parents' response all the time was like, well, I'm paying for it. So until you get your own job, until you get your own money, these are my rules. This is my house. And that landed. So like I'm a few years back and I was like, maybe I need to get my own job and my own money, so then I can call my own shots. So I started working at like 14. Because I understood the value of $1. It was independence. It was power. It was it would put me in a position to be in control of my life. And the entrepreneurial part of that then came as I sought after opportunities to work. I'm in Atlanta. It's a treasure trove of Black entrepreneurs. So most of my jobs at an early age, I was working under really dynamic Black entrepreneurs. One particularly, Nia Damali in Madu Bookstore at Greenbrier Mall, she became like my mentor. And I worked at that bookstore for most of my teenage life. And I learned firsthand what it meant to be an entrepreneur, what it meant to be a successful entrepreneur, and how many opportunities and access it gives you when you're in control of your income. So I came into the industry with that mindset. So I actually find it strange that I'm now a company guy, because I never ever imagined I would be a suit. Like I was always, let me get my own thing, let me be indie, all of that, because I knew I could do it. But what I learned when I crossed over into the network and corporate side is that there's a lot to be gained from understanding and working on this side of things, because you can appreciate the structure, the corporate dynamic of it, and you now understand how it plays into the larger marketplace. So if I were to go back to, just doing my own thing, I now get more keenly how the competitive space works. I'm never going to beat the big guy. So that will no longer be my goal, because I've been in the house with the big guy. He's going to win. He's bigger. But as a smaller company, as an entrepreneur on my own, I now understand that there's room for those entities to still thrive without threatening the larger ecosystem.
Okay.
And that's something I wouldn't have known had I not come over here with the mindset of an entrepreneur. I wouldn't have been looking for those answers.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's talk about, you are the VP of Original Production and Development for AllBlk WEtv. What exactly does that mean?
It means that I work with a team of awesome people at WeTV and AllBlk who take in pitches for shows and movies, and we develop them if we like them, meaning we offer some money to a producing partner or the creator of that project, and we determine how to best foster and cultivate the project so it will be set up for success if it goes to air on AllBlk or WeTV. And the original production part of my title, once we do develop a project, we really love it and we greenlight it for series, or we greenlight it as a feature film to be aired on the platforms, I would then oversee the production with the producing partner to make sure the vision that we originally all agreed upon is consistent and being fulfilled as we go through the production process.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And what is the key elements you consider when deciding to greenlight a new TV show or series?
We're always looking for something unique. We want a fresh perspective. Now, we know there's nothing new under the sun, but we also know that when you put your hands or your mind to a project, it now has a very unique point of view that only you can offer. So we're looking for a unique point of view that is sticky, meaning it will once we mention it to some of our audience members, they'll want to be a part of it. It's magnetic. It offers a lens of the story that we haven't seen before. So you could tell the story of somebody landing on the moon, but have you told it from the Black kid in, Mobile, Alabama, who happened to be in elementary school when this happened? You know what I mean? Like you can tell from different perspectives that we haven't heard of yet. And if it resonates with what our audience is looking for, which is a lot of drama, some salaciousness here and there, and some great cliffhangers, if we feel like your project has the potential for that, then we'll consider it.
Okay. So how do you balance creative vision with budget constraints during the production process?
There's no balance. The budget is the budget. So if you come in with a great idea, keep it great, but be fiscally responsible enough and financially literate enough to be able to move the dollars where they need to be to get your vision across without breaking the bank. And that is a skill. Anyone could wake up with a great idea, but few people can wake up with a great idea and actually manage to pay for it without, completely decimating our piggy bank.
Yeah.
So that just, it comes with, you work in the industry long enough to come up with really creative ways to tell your story on a dime. And a lot of us have figured out how to do that, which is why I think the work I do at AllBlk and WeTV, where we work a lot with Black producers and Black producing companies, they come with tried and true strategies on how to deliver premium looking projects without premium price tags.
Definitely. Can you share a specific example of a challenging situation on set and how you resolved it?
Yes. Challenging situations on set happen all the time, as I'm sure you know, but
Yes.
I think one of the more challenging situations I've endured is questioning when you're a director or you're an executive producer or a showrunner and you have a team that doesn't trust your judgment. That's often, and especially when you're a woman, when you're younger, when you're of color, that tends to happen more than it should. And a challenge on set, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, because I haven't been on set in a while as a producer. I had a camera operator who was new to the team, and the DP and I, we have a rhythm, we have a love language, we understand each other. He knows what I want to see and how to get it. And my process as a director on this particular show was, all the team would always say, Ashley's tagline is "wait for it," because in reality television, you can't make the magic happen. You can make some magic happen, but you can't make the magic happen. Some of the best moments in reality TV were the impromptu moments that no one was expecting, but the cameras were rolling. So what I had learned in the several years that I was doing unscripted is that when you think your scene is over, that's when you keep rolling, because you want the content that's on the edge. You want the stuff that's after cut. You never say cut in reality TV, for the record. But after you think you got it, you wait for it. And we had a new camera op that wasn't familiar with that process, and quite frankly, just didn't trust my judgment in waiting for it. I'm assuming they were tired and ready to go, and in their opinion, we had gotten it. And I just kept insisting over walkie that no, you got to wait for it. Hold your camera. Do not move. Hold your camera right there. It was a show about, I was Toy Hunter, I believe, on Travel Channel, where you look for rare toys, and we would have our host figure out how much they're worth so you could flip them for a lot of money. And there was going to be a discovery moment. I just knew it in my gut. There was going to be a discovery moment of one of our talent where they would see something on the shelf that they hadn't seen before, and we were going to get a really explosive reaction from it. And it hadn't happened yet. And I said, we just got to wait for it. They didn't know if and when it might happen, but in my gut, I knew it would happen. And that camera op was ready to literally, he almost just turned off in complete defiance of me as the showrunner, was just going to turn his camera off and walk away because he just thought it was silly. And we were just sitting there for no reason, twiddling our thumbs. And just when he was about to cut it, it happened. And he was rolling on it, and we got the moment, and it was a great moment. And I recall someone got on walkie and was like, see, you just got to wait for it. And so the challenge, I say that long story is the challenge when you are, and it kind of goes back to what I was challenged with as a young producer, with confidence. When you are keenly aware of who you are and you trust your judgment, you have to stand on that when you're running a set or when you're running a show, to be sure that your team trusts you. And one of the biggest challenges that I often face when I'm in the field or, working with new teams as a Black woman is earning that trust, because we don't get it as easily as some of our other peers in the industry.
Yeah. As you know, I executive produced, wrote, and directed my first film, Finding the Perfect Guy. And I, being brand new and having this crew, male dominated, and they didn't want to trust my vision. Right. And it was really hard to not come across. I had the challenge of, I needed to stand my ground. Yeah. But I also didn't need to come across being, this is my way only, So it was like trying to find that balance.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. But I will say the more time you spend with yourself and the more trust you can have within yourself, that exercise becomes easier and easier, because you don't feel like you're in defense mode to like protect your vision, because you know your vision is the vision. You're going to then feel compelled to be more patient with whatever their process is to seeing you. And then you wait for it. And then when that happens, everything comes together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, Ashley, what is the dumbest advice you have ever gotten?
And I knew this question was coming. The dumbest advice I have ever gotten is to change. I as a woman, especially as I would come up the ranks, the advice often from people who think that I'm too soft, or Ashley, you're too easy on everybody, or, Ashley needs to be tougher. I still think that's terrible advice, because the way I lead is the way I lead, and not for nothing, it's been working for me. And I don't see it not working for me anytime soon. And I think when you get in a position and you are climbing up this ladder and you start to change who you are at your core, you may sabotage your success when you get up there, because the whole reason you are supposed to be there is so that that core you can be there, not their version of you. Yeah. And I think the advice to assimilate or to accommodate, and this is different from compromising. Yeah, sometimes you got to meet people in the middle. Sometimes you wear sneakers to work every day and the corporate culture is not to wear sneakers. Okay, you shift. But to completely change your value system and who you are and how you engage with people in love, it, I believe, would hurt. It would hurt my trajectory for inevitable success if I were to abandon my true self.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so you have a company, Bird's Eyes Entertainment, that
Yeah.
fosters new talent.
Mhm.
What inspired you to create the company and the B Boot Camp?
So Bird's Eye Entertainment, I started in 2006.
Mhm.
Quite frankly, because I was doing a lot of like wealth building education, and I learned early on that incorporating and building businesses is the smartest way to manage your money.
Mhm.
And initially, that's all it was. But I think I always knew on the inside I would want my own production company. I just didn't know I wanted it then. But since I had gone through the work to go ahead and set this thing up, I was like, okay, let's do some things through it. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I started way back then, not realizing that it would become sort of the heartbeat of who I am with regards to creating space for mentorship and teaching, creating space for smaller productions with newer talent to explore their voices and get their projects out, and to create through my company opportunities for equity
Mhm.
and equitable production opportunities for filmmakers and writers and directors.
Okay.
Mhm.
You have a an event coming up, correct?
Do I? Is this are we talking about HBCU boot camps, that sort of stuff? We're talking about the master class next week.
Your
Yes.
masterclass.
Masterclass. Yes, the master. Yeah, I usually have a lot of things coming up. Masterclass next week is fantastic. I do so Bird's Eye Entertainment, what I just said, creating spaces for equity and for mentorship and teaching.
Mhm.
My company launches boot camps throughout the year at different universities and colleges or conferences, but we also do annually a masterclass, a one-day masterclass at the Jackson Film Festival. This is our third year there. We started with them at their inception, and we're very, very proud to be partners with them because we work with them throughout the year also to create opportunities for filmmakers to get access to opportunities that they may not have otherwise. And next week, the masterclass is a few hours with me and some close colleagues and friends from Hollywood to pour into anyone who registers. It's a fantastic experience to, number one, get your mind right, to teach you how to think about who you are and what you're doing from a more powerful space, to
Mhm.
learn how to create from intuition and from divine instruction versus you trying to force something onto the paper, trying to force something through the camera, to operate in a space of inspiration and enlightenment. So that whatever you're creating is created at its highest level.
Right.
And once we can get your mind there to understand who you are and what you have the power to create, we get to creating. And we collaborate and we work alongside some of the guests that I'll have come in, asking them questions about some projects that some of our registrants will bring to the table, and we will dissect and figure out the best ways to set everyone up for success. There's opportunities for me to help you with crafting story and recognizing how packaging a project needs to change in order for you to be able to pitch it properly
Mhm.
to different people in the industry. We'll talk about tricks of the trade for distribution deals, how you understand budgets, strategy for staffing. We had talked earlier about being able to maintain your creative integrity and keeping a budget. I'll give you some of my secrets of how you can, if you've got this big, Star Wars type project in your head, but you have like, I don't know, she's got to have it budget. How do we pull this together? I will happily show you how you can pull this off with some of the technology that's out there and some of my friends in the industry who are happy to offer up some advice. So yeah, it's a really, really big, fun, transformative event. I tell everyone, any workshop you come with me, and this is with my most humble hat on, you will not leave the same way you walk in. You can ask anyone who's been to one of these workshops, a masterclass, a boot camp, anyone who's participating in the producers lab this summer. You walk in, and it's not me, it's you actually. You walk in here with certain hesitation,
Mhm.
insecurities, and fears and frustrations. You walk out ready for anything. You are armored, you are equipped, you are about to take over this thing that you have just been afraid of, and you have been pushing up this hill for however long you've been pushing it. So it's going to be a fun time. I encourage you guys to go to jacksonfilmfest.com to, or you can go to ashleymcfarlin.com just to make it easier to register. $125 is the registration fee. Well worth the money, a great investment for yourself. And you get a friend in me after the day's over. You'll never lose me. You can always contact me when you have questions.
That's cool. Okay. I do have a really good question. Okay. So you do the pitch deck, you get your film together, you're ready to submit. How do you get past the gatekeepers to actually get to the networks? Do you have to go through a producer? What do you have to do? Because y'all don't take unsolicited.
We do. A lot of people take unsolicited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of people take unsolicited. I take unsolicited. You can LinkedIn me. I mean, I may reply. That doesn't mean I'm gonna love it. I'm just putting that out there.
Right.
People are much more accessible than they used to be. You're looking at a different generation of executives, I think, now. So even the idea of quote unquote gatekeeper has changed. You have a lot of people in the executive position who grew up in that environment and hated it. So now that they're in a position to allow more people access, they're a little bit more lenient. So sure, all companies, networks, and studios don't take cold calls or allow unsolicited pitches, but a lot more do than used to. So I wouldn't make that assumption. The worst thing you can get is a no if you try. So just try. Hit people up on LinkedIn, reach out on the company websites. There's usually a space where you could submit ideas or at least contact the development team and take a stab at tossing your thing out there. It might be pretty good. You can find a lot of people in the DM on IG, and your idea might be the thing they're looking for. A lot of networks and studios right now, just because of the state of the industry between the strike last year and global economy issues, now a lot of networks and studios aren't buying a lot, but they're taking pitches and they're entertaining, listening, hearing from you, and it could be a great idea. To reach us, I'm very accessible. I can't speak for all executives, but yeah, you can reach me on social media or my website, or you can again go to the AMC website and you'll find the development team's information there. It takes time though. You have to be patient. What I have found is a lot of people who have been really at this for a long time, once they finally get to us, they think that's the goal. And it's not. That's nowhere near the finish line. You still got a long way to go, but it's a good step forward. So just keep at it and keep showing up, and don't get impatient with the process. Once you reach us, we may not respond for several weeks, if not months. And that's just the way things are set up. If you are represented, yes, that moves a lot faster. So if you have an agent or if you're connected to a production company, the advantage there is that they have relationships with us. So they can just hit us up on the phone. We actually trust their judgment. So we know them and we know they're probably not bringing us trash. And we'll be like, yeah, set up a meeting on Tuesday. We'll talk, we'll rap about it. But yes, if you are coming in unsolicited, you can try. It may land, it may not. And if it lands, it may take a while. But if you're about your vision, if you're about your business, you just stay with it.
I'm glad you cleared that up and corrected me, because I thought that it was harder to reach, No,
it's not a wide open threshold, but it's not an iron gate either.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, you was one of the panelists at my last BBR Indie Films. What was your experience like?
Oh, it was fun. The energy in the space was just so electric. Everyone in there was very enthusiastic about their projects, about supporting other people's projects. You could tell that the enthusiasm for seeing people win was so authentic, and that was inspiring. It was nice to be in a room full of people rooting for each other, not competing. That's it's a different vibe for a festival. Everybody really just wanted to see everybody shine, and that was nice.
Cool. Well, thank you again for being one of the panelists and everything.
Absolutely. And you got some sound gems from you guys had a rock house panel. Like there were tons of great people speaking there who just offered up such wonderful insight for anyone who's looking to get in on this thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
This one coming up is gonna be solid too.
I wish I could make it. I will come to the next one for sure. I'm traveling that time, but I'll come to the next one. It's a really great experience, and I commend you for doing it. Like, you are doing the work, bringing the creative community together, keeping them motivated, giving them access to opportunities. That's big. So
Thank
make
you.
sure you give yourself your flowers regularly.
Thank you so much for saying
Mhm.
that. My final question for you is, how do you balance, you're a network executive, entrepreneur, you're an author, you're a mom, maintaining, just your regular work-life balance?
I don't balance it well. I'll be honest with you. I don't. That was actually the conversation I had with myself this morning, and some feedback I got from a colleague today. I really do need to work on my time management skills. I think that, what's that saying when like kids go to like a restaurant and their stomach is bigger than, or their mind is bigger than their stomach or whatever, they order everything they see because they're just like, I want that, I want that, I want that, and they get to the table, can't eat all of it. That's kind of how I'm finding myself approaching life in general. And there's scripture that says, all things are permissible, but everything is not beneficial. So I'm growing in that. I'm growing in being discerning better what I should be saying yes to and when I should say yes to it. I don't think it's a matter of if I can do something. I think it's me getting better at determining when I should do it. Because nobody benefits from a burnt out contributor. No one benefits from someone who's so busy multitasking that they aren't fully present for what they've committed to. So I, to answer your question, I don't balance it very well. But I do give myself some grace in that I balance it well enough that everything is still standing and it looks good. But I could do better. I'm working on just prioritizing things a bit more, focusing on the things that are more important in this season of my life and other things that may need to wait until the next chapter. And that's a daily exercise. Every morning, waking up and sitting with myself, sitting with my God and saying, hey, what should I be committed to today that most glorifies you? And a lot of times those things are not most of the things on my to-do list. And sometimes they are really difficult things to let go of because they're things that I would like, no, but I really want to do this. And this was such a great idea. And God is like, yeah, but not right now. Right now we're doing this.
Right.
And when you focus on this will shine, and all the things will come together when they're supposed to come together. So I give this advice to myself and advice to anyone who's listening. If you do find yourself overcommitting to things or being a big visionary like myself, slow down. My pastor says, slow down and grow. Slow down, take a second to see all the things in front of you, and then speak internally to determine what thing should you be tackling right now and when.
Definitely.
I think that's when the balance happens. And then I don't even know if it's balance anymore. At that point, it's just like delegation of like compartmentalized projects. Like I'm not doing one thing and another. I'm just telling one thing to sit down while I focus on one. On the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ashley, I would like to thank you so much for taking your time to speak to little old May.
Thank you for having me. And there's nothing little about you, but
I had an amazing time talking to you. You shared
you're
some
fantastic.
great nuggets with everyone. And so, yeah, thank you so much. So with that, everybody, we are out of here. Ashley, you stay on for a second. But with that, everybody, we are out of here, and we're going to talk to you guys later. Peace out, y'all.